We come to you tonight with a developing story, a situation that demands immediate attention. A crisis has unfolded, one that's not only left Alaska effectively landlocked, but has also sent shockwaves through the usually steadfast U.S.-Canada alliance, raising serious questions about the future of our relationship. The Alaska Highway, that vital artery, the only continuous land route connecting the vast expanse of Alaska to the contiguous lower 48 states, has been abruptly and unexpectedly closed by Canadian authorities, leaving many to wonder what could have prompted such a drastic measure. This isn't a temporary inconvenience caused by a weather delay or routine construction. This is something far more significant. It's a total and complete shutdown of what is a critical economic and strategic corridor, a lifeline for Alaska, and a key link between our nations. The closure has stranded countless travelers, families on their way home, and individuals seeking new opportunities. It has severely disrupted supply chains, causing shortages and impacting businesses that rely on the constant flow of goods. And it has left Alaska's 730,000 residents feeling isolated and cut off, their connection to the rest of the country severed by land. The U.S. response has been swift and undeniably angry, with officials demanding answers and calling for immediate action. Political rhetoric is escalating rapidly on both sides of the border, further straining what was once considered an unbreakable bond. Former President Trump has already weighed in, calling the closure an act of hostility and demanding a strong response. He's framing it as a major political showdown, a test of American resolve and a challenge to our nation's sovereignty. The highway's closure is far more than just a logistical problem or a transportation headache. It's a stark and troubling symbol of deepening diplomatic tensions, a sign that relations between the U.S. and Canada may be at a breaking point. But how did it come to this? What chain of events led to such a drastic decision? And what exactly is at stake for both nations as this crisis unfolds? We're here to break down the facts, to separate the truth from the speculation, and to provide you with a clear understanding of this complex situation. We'll examine the fallout, the immediate consequences of the closure, and the potential long-term ramifications for both countries. And we'll look ahead to what comes next, exploring the possible solutions and the potential paths forward in this unprecedented crisis. The closure of a single highway has opened a deep and concerning fissure in what was once a historic friendship, a bond built on mutual respect and shared values. And as it stands now, the path to reopening that highway and to repairing that relationship remains uncertain and fraught with challenges. To understand the crisis, you need to know the Alaska Highway's history. Built in 1942 as a wartime lifeline, the Alcan was carved through 1,500 miles of wilderness by U.S. soldiers and Canadian cooperation. It was a strategic military asset, then became Alaska's economic backbone, vital for goods, families, and industry. The highway moves everything from groceries to heavy equipment, supporting Alaska's economy and daily life. Air and sea routes exist, but the highway's flexibility and capacity are irreplaceable. Closing it is like severing a major artery, isolating a population and disrupting decades of commerce. The road is more than pavement, it's a symbol of resilience and partnership. Canada's decision to shut it down isn't a minor spat. It strikes at Alaska's identity and the U.S.-Canada relationship. What was once a symbol of cooperation is now a flashpoint of conflict. Ottawa says the closure is about environmental and safety violations by U.S. trucking firms. Canadian officials cite repeated non-compliance with emissions and hazardous materials rules, especially after a recent chemical spill near Muncho Lake. They argue this was the last straw in a pattern of ignored warnings and fines. Canada insists the closure is temporary and conditional. Reopen the highway when U.S. carriers comply with stricter standards. The official line is regulatory, not political. But sources suggest broader frustrations over trade disputes are in play. By targeting the Alaska Highway, Canada is applying pressure where it hurts most. The spill provided a defensible reason for a move that also serves strategic interests. The message: protect Canadian land, force U.S. compliance, and get Washington's attention. The closure is both a warning and a bargaining chip. The sudden closure of the Alaska Highway sends immediate shockwaves throughout the region. Its impact is immediate and deeply personal, disrupting lives and livelihoods in profound ways. Hundreds of families, their travel plans abruptly halted, find themselves stranded, unsure of when they can continue their journeys. Military personnel, essential workers, and countless others are stranded at border crossings, their movements restricted, their schedules thrown into disarray. The ripple effect extends far beyond mere inconvenience. Many find themselves in remote areas where access to essential goods is already limited, now facing the prospect of dwindling supplies. The isolation amplifies the anxiety. Local resources in small towns, never designed to handle such a surge in demand, are quickly overwhelmed, struggling to provide for both residents and the unexpected influx of stranded travelers. Communities rally, opening emergency shelters and offering what assistance they can, as they try to help those stuck navigate this unforeseen crisis. Alaska's economy is reeling, the lifeblood of commerce choked off by the highway's closure. Supermarkets warn of rapidly approaching shortages, their shelves emptying as the supply chain grinds to a halt. Panic buying exacerbates the problem, and prices for basics like milk and vegetables are set to spike dramatically, placing an additional burden on families already struggling with the disruption. Air freight, while offering a temporary solution, simply can't fully replace the sheer volume of goods that normally flow along the highway. And with demand soaring, costs are soaring, making it an unsustainable long-term alternative. Tourism, a vital sector of the Alaskan economy, is collapsing as visitors cancel trips and businesses shutter their doors. Construction projects are halted as essential materials fail to arrive, bringing progress to a standstill. And with businesses struggling and projects delayed, layoffs loom, casting a shadow of uncertainty over the workforce. The military, responsible for defending a vast territory, faces significant logistical headaches, struggling to maintain its readiness and supply its bases. And patients needing critical medical travel are placed at increased risk, as transportation options become limited and unreliable. The intricate web connecting Alaska to the lower 48, a lifeline for the state, is torn, disrupting the flow of goods, people, and essential services. And the longer it lasts, the deeper the damage, threatening to leave lasting scars on the state's economy and its people. For some, particularly those in isolated communities, the highway is more than just a road, it's a lifeline, their only connection to the outside world. Its closure is more than an inconvenience, it's a crisis, a threat to their very survival. The state's resilience, its ability to weather storms and overcome adversity, is being tested like never before. Washington's response is a mix of urgent diplomacy and political outrage. The White House calls for immediate talks, stressing the special U.S.-Canada relationship. Secretary Blinken urges joint inspections to address environmental concerns, but former President Trump's reaction is explosive, accusing Canada of betrayal and demanding tariffs until the highway reopens. Trump's rhetoric has galvanized his base and pressured Republicans to take a hard line. The crisis is now a national political firestorm, with Congress split along party lines. Alaska's delegation calls it an economic siege demanding action. The White House faces a dilemma: appear weak or risk escalation. The Alaska Highway is now a battleground for sovereignty, respect, and political power. The stakes have never been higher for U.S.-Canada relations. This isn't the first time U.S.-Canada ties have been strained by border disruptions. The 2022 Freedom Convoy blockade showed how quickly trade can grind to a halt, costing billions. Canada learned the power of border closures as leverage, and now wields it for its own aims. Long-standing disputes over lumber, dairy, and steel have fueled mistrust for years. Ottawa's bold move reflects a history of standing firm, even at economic cost. The Alaska Highway crisis is the latest chapter in a long-running economic Cold War. Canada is asserting its sovereignty and demanding Washington's attention. Both governments are treading carefully, but tensions are high. Canada frames the closure as non-negotiable, protecting land and sovereignty. Trudeau says, "Comply with our laws and the highway reopens." The ball is in America's court. Behind the scenes, Canadian diplomats offer joint oversight, hoping to show cooperation. The U.S. State Department pushes for urgent talks, recognizing Canada's right to regulate but calling the closure unacceptable. Official statements are measured, but political pressure is mounting in Washington. The U.S. Ambassador and Department of Transportation are signaling the crisis could escalate to a formal trade dispute. Both sides want a solution, but patience is running thin. The diplomatic language is calm, but the stakes and tempers are rising. The next moves will determine if this crisis ends in compromise or confrontation. The road ahead is uncertain, shrouded in a fog of possibilities, each turn potentially leading to a drastically different destination. The situation remains fluid, and predicting the exact course of events is proving to be a challenge for even the most seasoned analysts. With three possible outcomes, each carrying its own set of consequences and implications for all parties involved. These potential paths represent the range of scenarios that could unfold in the coming days and weeks. Best case, a quick diplomatic deal, U.S. trucking firms agree to new rules, perhaps through a series of compromises and concessions on both sides, paving the way for a swift resolution. And Canada reopens the highway in phases, allowing for a gradual return to normalcy and the resumption of vital trade routes. Worst-case talks fail, the U.S. imposes tariffs, escalating the conflict and creating a climate of uncertainty and distrust. Canada retaliates and a trade war erupts, with both nations implementing a series of escalating measures that further disrupt trade and damage their respective economies, leaving Alaska isolated and economies damaged, facing severe shortages and economic hardship as a result of the disrupted supply chains. Middle ground months of bureaucratic wrangling under USMCA rules, a protracted and complex process that yields only incremental progress, with the highway closed and trust eroded, leaving a lingering sense of resentment and uncertainty about the future of the relationship. Watch for official announcements as government officials attempt to navigate this complex situation and provide updates to the public. Signs of retaliatory tariffs, which could signal a further escalation of the trade dispute and have significant economic consequences, and reports from Alaska's front lines as communities grapple with the immediate impacts of the highway closure and the uncertainty that lies ahead. The crisis's true impact will be felt in grocery stores as shortages and price increases affect everyday Alaskans. Shipping companies, struggling to find alternative routes and manage the logistical challenges of delivering essential goods, and local communities who are bearing the brunt of the economic disruption and facing an uncertain future. The fate of Alaska's economy, a region heavily reliant on trade and transportation, and a storied international partnership, a relationship built on decades of cooperation and mutual benefit, hangs in the balance. The world is watching, as this dispute has implications that extend far beyond the borders of Alaska and North America. To see if cooler heads can prevail, and whether diplomacy can overcome the challenges that lie ahead. The Alaska Highway's closure is a test of resilience, diplomacy, a critical moment that will determine the future of trade relations, and the future of U.S.-Canada cooperation, a partnership that has been a cornerstone of North American stability and prosperity. The next chapter is about to be written, and the choices made in the coming days will determine its course.